Hello, my friends. I wanted to jump on and tell you that enrollment is now open for our Unicorn Society group. For those of you who don't know what Unicorn Society is, it's our Business for Unicorns coaching group for training gym owners. It's an amazing group of humans. I'm obsessed with these folks. So many people who have been in Unicorn Society have been in it for many years now. So that just tells you how much people enjoy being in the group. But briefly, what you get in the group is you get pretty much unlimited access to me and Mark and Pete Dupuis as your coaches, up to 90 minutes per month of one-on-one time with us, plus kind of unlimited emails, texts, plus a ton of other things. I could spend 10 minutes talking about it, but we do retreats. Every quarter, we have a 2-day retreat that you can attend in person or remotely. You get access to Unicorn University, all of our online courses. We have a content library with endless tools and tips and scripts and templates. You also have Zoom meetings with a group, our cohort from Unicorn Society that you talk to every other week or every week if you want to. And so the whole thing is that this group is meant to be your support system, your executive board of directors to help you both personally and professionally make decisions and navigate running a brick and mortar training gym. And so if that sounds fun for you, if you think you could use some extra support, some extra attention, if you want to stop feeling kind of alone running your business and want a little camaraderie, a little friendship, some peers to work with and collaborate with, that's what we do in Unicorn Society. That's what we do. It's the number one reason people join this group is because they want to have people to work with. It could be kind of lonely at the top. It's a cliche, but it's true. As a manager and leader of your organization, you often don't have people you can confide in and collaborate with. And so Unicorn Society provides a bunch of thought partners in the form of me, Mark, and Pete, and thought partners in the form of all the rest of your members who are available to you to serve as a sounding board and a support system. So the reason I'm coming on to tell you is right now in the podcast is that early bird enrollment is open right now, and it ends November 7th. So if you enroll before November 7th, you get a lot of cool things. You save, I think, $1,800 on your dues for the year. So that's huge savings. We really marked down early bird pricing. You also get a free month. You get to start early. So if you enroll by November 7th, you get to start in December, a whole month before the year begins. Everyone who rolls past the early bird period won't start until January. So starting in December means you really get to hit the ground running. So anyway, go to our website, businessforunicorns.com, click the link below, and come join us. There's an application process, of course, to make sure that we're the right fit for you and you're the right fit for us. But go apply. Even if you're curious about it, there's no commitment in the application process. So just go do it so we can have a conversation. If you have any questions, just let us know. Email me, michael@businessforunicorns.com or mark@businessforunicorns.com. Thanks for letting me share this information. I hope you all join me. It's a blast and we have a ton of fun together. So don't be shy. Let's do this. Bye. Hello, fitness business nerds. What's up? Welcome to another episode of the Business for Unicorns podcast. I'm here with Fisher today for a bonus episode, and they're becoming less and less bonusy because we're doing them a lot.
Yes.
So we might need a better name for these these episodes. But how are you doing today, sir?
I am doing pretty good. Excited about some work travel coming up. I'm going to go speak at the IFBA event in London, which is a coaching mastermind for training gym owners over there. And then we're preparing for Inside the Unicorn, which there are still tickets coming up. It's going to be on Friday, October 23rd and 24th. Link, I'm certain, will be in the show notes.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm excited about it. I mean, we've been doing some planning and prep for it, and we're really just pulling back the curtain of Mark Fisher Fitness and telling you how we do all the things we do from all the lessons learned over the last 10 years. And I'm stoked. It's going to be like a crazy high value experience. Like if I wasn't us, I'd be wanting to come. And I don't really want to come to a lot of these things.
Yeah. It's interesting. One thing that pertains to our topic today, as we can transition into it here, is I am preparing the marketing and the sales modules, and I've made a decision for marketing to focus on non-paid digital. And there are a couple of reasons for that. One of them being we just kind of have to pick our battles because it's only 2 days. We don't have time to go over everything. And secondly, we work with an agency that handles a lot of that for us. So I wouldn't say that, I'm somebody that's great at making Facebook ads. I understand the mechanics, the principles of marketing don't change. But it is interesting because at the time of this recording, I assume we're going to get this live quickly. We are but 3 days after Facebook and Instagram and WhatsApp going down.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
was
So
an interesting experience.
yeah, it was fascinating. It doesn't happen very often, but when it does, it sure does ripple around the world pretty quickly. And so that's what we wanted to talk about today. We wanted to talk just briefly about, okay, well, if Facebook is not reliable sometimes, and social media in general is kind of highly problematic, and maybe we'll have time to talk about that, and ruining our brains and our attention spans, and maybe poisoning most of society, give or take.
Yeah.
That are there some other strategies that we should be investing in as business owners to get the word out? How heavily should we be relying on social media these days for marketing? And as Fisher said, in our upcoming course that we're doing, and even with our existing Unicorn Society members, we often talk a lot about non-social media strategies, non-digital strategies, non-paid strategies for marketing, because we think it is really important to have, at the very least, a somewhat diversified portfolio of where your time and attention goes on marketing. If you're putting all your eggs in the basket of any one place, it's not ideal. And if that one place is social media, it's really not ideal. So yeah, Fisher, maybe just share a little bit about what your recent thoughts are on how we're doing this at MFF.
So we, as I mentioned, are outsourcing this because we just made a decision it was better to outsource this particular competency because the digital marketing landscape is continuing to change. And that may or may not be the right choice for you, depending on your skill set, your interest, the size of your business. There are times where that is more or less appropriate. For us, it made sense to outsource it. And I would note, we broadly do lots of digital marketing. So it's not just Facebook and Instagram, though certainly we do market heavily on there, but we also do YouTube and Google and Waze, and we've actually experimented with TikTok and Pinterest. So we have a pretty wide net.
We even talked briefly with Grindr a bunch of years ago.
Yeah, we did.
We'll consider anything.
Yeah, honestly. So the thing that is interesting is I want to give a little bit of data because of context for how we think about this, because certainly we spend a fair amount of money monthly on digital marketing, both between the agency itself and just on placement. But I thought it might be interesting to look at our numbers. So giving you our stats since December 28th. So this is basically year-to-date numbers. These are the number of people that have opted in to our various funnels. So since that time, we've had a homebody trial, which is 14 days for $49 for 12 classes. So basically unlimited classes. And since December 28th, we've had 997 opt-ins, of which 576 came in through paid digital, which means that 421, so a large percentage, 42-ish% of our opt-ins came from other resources. Now, most of them likely came in through our email marketing. Occasionally, of course, someone might randomly go to the website or a friend might refer us, and those are other ways of getting in. But on balance, a lot of our firepower is not just, we're not relying on paid digital. A lot of that is coming from the consistent email marketing. Different ways to do this, but for contacts at Mark Fisher Fitness, since that time, for about a year now, we've been consistently emailing twice per week. We do a longer content email on Monday. We do a shorter one on Friday. And importantly, something I always hammer, there's always some call to action, usually in the form of a soft PS, broken up periodically by hardcore sales emails. For contacts, I'll just say briefly, our other trial, which has changed throughout the year, was 2 free semi-privates and then transitioned into a 28-day trial called the Ninja Academy. This is for in-person offerings. We've had 758 opt-ins so far year to date, and 417, so well more than half of them, have actually come through non-paid digital options. So all of this to say, if you're not already doing email marketing, that's something that's going to be important to start as soon as you can. You don't necessarily need to do twice per week, but you do need to be touching your warm list of people that ostensibly already know you, so that over time they can like you and trust you, and then be constantly making compelling offers so people take action to work with you in some meaningful way. Now, if you come to Inside the Unicorn, which you should, we'll go into a lot more detail about that. We'll discuss, I do think there is a place, unfortunately, still for organic social media. I do think you need to have a presence there and be posting regularly. And not to be underappreciated, I think you need to develop some systems for effective referral marketing. How do you consistently make asks of your clients to spread the good word about what you're doing? And fourth, and probably I think the most underappreciated, is what is your truly offline strategy? What is your ground game? This is more often than not takes the form of partnering with local businesses. This could be flyers. We've been having a lot of sex with. We've been having a lot of sex with and success with direct mail. It's not been the most satisfying sex we've ever had, but it sure gets the job done. But the marketing actually has been going pretty well for us. So now, again, this isn't to say that you should rush out and do all of those things. I'm not sharing that to be prescriptive, but in the spirit of sharing what we're doing and how we're doing it, I hope that gives you insight as we are absolutely not relying on paid digital. Because the other thing I want to highlight is the fact of the matter is the paid digital leads tend to not convert nearly as high as the ones that come in from those other sources. There's a lot of reasons why that makes sense, but it is very important to understand that while I think, yes, unfortunately, and I think it's a big unfortunate, we'll probably unpack this in a hot second, you have to be on these platforms and you have to do the paid digital, because over time it will compound month over month. Even if you're getting an additional, let's say 20 leads and only 5 of them are converting, well, over the course of a year, that really, really starts to add up. So even though it is a decent expense and may or may not be a big investment of time, I do think it's an important fishing pole, so to speak. You should be out there fishing with, and you cannot rely on it exclusively.
Yeah.
And I think we saw in part why on Monday. Now, that was an extreme event. Presumably, none of these platforms are going to change overnight. But the other thing that is challenging about the paid digital landscape is it's some wriggly worms, which is to say everything is changing. It's going to keep changing. Who knows? That might be the big tobacco moment for Facebook on Monday. We might see maybe there is going to be some flight from the platform. Certainly, anybody paying attention to the space, the cost per lead has gotten very, very high. So I would share that even our digital marketing agency, we're not moving away totally from Facebook and Instagram, but we are heavily experimenting in other forms of digital marketing, because while it does still work, it doesn't clearly work the way that it did several years ago. And these things do have a life cycle. So, and believe me, again, I'm not forecasting this is the end of Facebook and Instagram. I'm just saying that even within your digital marketing efforts, you need to have some diversification.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said. Well said, my friend. I think that's really useful context for people. Yeah. I'll just add a few quick thoughts that are related. When it comes to email marketing, I think, when you're talking about alternatives to paid digital, I think email marketing is absolutely the top of the damn pyramid, right? I think it's like the most important thing everyone should be doing right away. And most people have the first step to that, but are often missing what I think is the second step. So people often have the first step, which they have a software for it, right? I got SurveyMonkey, I got MailChimp, I got whatever the heck it is. Cool, great, that's fantastic. You get the first step, but the second step that I think is really important that people often just fall off the cliff here about is segmenting. Right? That list needs to be segmented. And what we mean by that is that you can't have one message for all the people all the time, right? You need to talk to different people with different messages all the time. And at the very least, and reasonable people can debate what the segments should be, but for most of you, you should at least start with 2 or 3 segments. They should be, I'll start with an example of what 3 could look like. The 3 segments on your emails should be a list of people who are currently active and are members, who are currently coming to your gym. Should be people who have bought something at one point but are not currently active, and people who haven't done anything. People who are just on your list and found their way there but have never purchased anything or interacted with you and your team in a meaningful way. That's at least a start, right? And you could come up with other segments too, depending on how your business is shaped. But I think most of you will get further faster with your email marketing if you start thinking about your communication to at least those 3 subgroups of people. I think when it comes to kind of more local grassroots stuff like direct mail and flyers and relationships, one of the ways I think about this is, and I talk to our unicorn sighted clients about this, is about like reputational management, right? Because I don't often quote Jeff Bezos, but one of the quotes that I really love, he says that your brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. I think that was him, right? And I think that's a really important thing to think about when you're a business like ours, and especially when you're in a not New York City market, when you're an actual market where your community knows you as a small business and you have an actual reputation. I think part of your job in terms of doing really good grassroots marketing is to know what people are saying about you when you're not in the room. What does your community think about you? How engaged are you in other organizations in your area and charities in your area, in your, and again, this is not always relevant if you're a giant market like New York City, but the smaller your market is, the more relevant this is. I mean, there's plenty of people in our Unicorn Society group who've been embedded in their communities for decades, and they have a strong reputation for being a place that is inclusive and welcoming and kind and generous. And that goes a long way. I mean, that is the fuel of word of mouth referrals, right? I mean, that is the fuel of getting people in the door without you having to spend any money, is having a really solid reputation. There's lots of ways to do that, but I just thought I would give that framing because I think it does, for some people, feel a little less scary than talking about like local grassroots marketing. Well, it's like, well, okay, if that sounds scary, how about you just think about what's your reputation in your community? What do people think about you, and how can you make them think about you more and think more positive things about you? And then you can worry about specific, direct response marketing and calls to action and how you get them through your pipeline. But it starts with have them think nice things about you, which is oversimplified, but I think useful.
Yeah, and it's the challenge is it's obviously hard to do that without going out there and leaving your office and your gem and going and meeting people. Because admittedly, when we boil this down, one of the component challenges people face from all of this is the core business challenge, which is arguably time management. And that's something we've obviously spoken a lot about over the years, is just being disciplined enough to do the thing. Because having an email service provider is great. It's a great first step. And certainly I would love to get you segmenting. And frankly, for a lot of people that I talk to, I'd settle for you just emailing them on a semi-consistent basis.
That's the step 3, is you have to actually talk to them on a regular basis.
Yeah, because, for me, if you feel you're just overwhelmed by the thought of even segmenting, you need to hold off on that for now. And you're just sending one messaging to everyone. It's just something, okay, just get started. That's fine. And we just need to be consistent about it, because I can't tell you how often I get on the phone with somebody, whether in the Unicorn Society or a random one-off coaching call, and the individual has an email list and they're like, oh yeah, I do it, but erratically. That's the most common thing I hear. Rarely do I find people that don't email market at all or have no list. So that does happen. And sometimes I find people that do it consistently, but the vast majority say, I do it, but I do it erratically. And then I get busy and I forget, and then I stop doing it. Unfortunately, marketing is a thing you kind of always need to be doing. You always need to be working on that relationship with your peoples.
Yeah, for sure. I know we only have a few more minutes. We're a little tight for time today. It's going to be a quickie, but I know we also just wanted to talk broadly about social media. And I don't know if this is more of like a personal rant, or if this is, or if I think both of us have talked, offline and just, personally, how concerned we've been about the influence of social media on ourselves and how addicted, we can both be, and people around us can be to social media, how it's impacting our ability to have attention, have quality time with ourselves, how damaging the constant comparison can be to seeing others who seem to have these beautifully curated lives on social media. And it goes on and on and on. There's a lot of negative impacts, not just from a business perspective, but just from a human perspective on social media. So I don't know, in the short time we have, Fisher, what do you want to say about that?
I would say that I am continually engaged in a very serious dialogue about the ethical ramifications of our decision to continue to give money to these machines that I think do damage to individuals and society. Mm-hmm. And I don't have a good answer for it yet. I concede, I think it's a tool. It's like any tool. It's not necessarily inherently problematic. And I think there's ways to mitigate the downsides and potentially leverage what I think are some admirable qualities. Like, for instance, I'll say at MFF and Business for Unicorns, our Facebook groups are some of the happiest places I can be. They're virtual community spaces, but they are admittedly, and they're not, it's interesting. I was going to say they're well regulated, but not really. There's not even really aggressive ground rules. It just happens to be, it's been self-selected to people by share values. So those particular spaces become, to my mind, some of the best of, I think, what social media can offer, which is another platform for genuine connection, to give and receive emotional support, tactical support. In the case of Business for Unicorns, business support, very specific strategic asks where you can crowdsource very quickly and get on-demand support from a bunch of other training gym owners. And I think that's very valuable. However, there are a number of, I think, bugs built into the system of what social media is that I think are almost inherently going to be destructive. Because by definition, any sort of public-facing broadcast is a public-facing broadcast, right? So you're dealing with a lot of these mechanisms of evolutionary psychology about our desire to fit in, our desire, our fear of being publicly ostracized, that lead to a lot of behavior that I think is not necessarily helpful.
Yeah.
And to be clear, I'm going to be very upfront. I am engaged in very serious dialogue with myself about this, because I'm certainly not suggesting that if you're somebody that loves social media, you're on social media, you build your business by social media. I'm not saying there's anything wrong for it. And frankly, right now, if I'm coaching you as a training gym owner client, I'm probably not suggesting you get personally off social media. To some extent, it is a reflection of the success we've had that I personally am able to opt out. And I choose to express myself via emails. Part of it is because, as you can tell, because I often speak for 10 minutes uninterrupted, I am incapable of expressing myself in a meaningful way with the nuance that I think is inherent in anything that actually matters to me. I can't do that generally in a caption. And you might say, well, that's a limitation of my communication skills and I should work on that. I can get better at it. And I guess I just don't traffic in shoulds. I'm not interested in doing that. I'd rather write 500 to 1500 word emails where I can go deep on something and provide the nuance that that topic is deserving of. Now, again, I want to share, this is not a thing I have worked out. It's just something that when we were talking about this podcast, I shared with Michael, I want to share with you, because I do think one of my maxims, if any of you are a Supermarket fan, you read my 40 maxims, is that we are all moral philosophers. We are all moral philosophers, which is to say that if you exist in the world and you take any kind of action, you should consider applied ethics, because your decisions, your choices are going to have an impact on the world around you. And I just want to highlight that I think these platforms have some very, very serious challenges, and they're doing some very, very bad things. And my hope is that I don't see a way at this point for us to ameliorate these downsides without regulation. And I know that might be challenging if you're listening, dear listener, if you have more libertarian leanings, but I do not believe the incentives are going to help us. 5 years ago, we thought they would. 5 years ago, we said, oh, corporations will not want their material and their content being marketed next to various really problematic things that exist in the social media space. And it didn't work out that way. It's been 5 years. I don't think we can rely on incentives for this one. I think these are structurally designed to leverage human emotions to gain attention share in ways that are profoundly negative. And I'm not sure what we do about it, but it's an issue and we've got to figure it out.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I'm 100% with you, my friend. I think that's it. I think, the incentives for all the social media companies are to gain more time and attention on the platform almost at any cost. Right. And the cost seems to be more and more content that drives strong emotional reactions. And it's easy to drive strong emotional reactions with really negative or what's what I'm looking for, conflict oriented or extreme views. Right. Those are the things that drive more and more attention, which means more money for the platforms. And I've seen it even in our space. I've only been in this industry now 10 years, but still I've seen that, we all have to have more and more extreme clickbait to get anyone's attention. We all have to put out content that is just fighting for sometimes the lowest common denominator to get someone to opt in. And that doesn't always feel right. I hear a lot of our clients on a regular basis trying to work with outside marketing companies that are trying to get them to represent those kind of clickbaity headlines or clickbaity images. Yeah. And they don't want to. It feels like a disconnect from our values and our integrity. But that's how the platforms function, right? Is that you're only going to get traction when you can drive extreme emotional reactions in people. And that requires sometimes extreme headlines. Yeah. And so I think, it's something that, I think if there's a takeaway from this conversation for all of our listeners out there is please be thinking about this, right? And we're not here to preach solutions, but I think it's just raising the yellow flag or maybe even the red flag to say there's some real challenges here for us as business leaders, for us as humans, for us as friends, for us as communities, and we all play a part in finding a better path forward. So please be thinking about it. And we're always here to be thought partners for each of you about how this affects you. While we don't have the answers, we like asking lots of questions.
Yeah, and I'll offer you one final thought that will hopefully be a little bit of solace, is just to encourage you and highlight for you that the principles of building, I think, a high integrity, conscious, if you will, business is about ideally helping and providing value and building meaningful relationships that are not transactional, that are about investing in a relationship over time and improving the quality of life in that individual in whatever way you're adding value. And I think that is not an impossible task to do on the social media. So if you're someone feeling overwhelmed by maybe some social pressure to behave in a certain way on social media to grow your business, the reality is, quite frankly, for most of our listeners, if you're a 1-unit training gym owner, frankly, you don't need to develop 100,000 followers. So it's okay.
No.
You're likely very capable of using these platforms in a mostly very positive way. And I think so long as you're able to some extent, I think, monitor and be cognizant of how much time you're spending consuming it, I think it's possible for you to choose to be a light on those platforms. And I don't think we have to choose between being a Luddite and a monk and totally zooming out. Even I'm still on the platform, right? I rarely post, but I'm there for direct messages and I do scroll in once in a while. So again, this is not to say that you have to rush off of those things. And if anything, what I want to encourage you to reflect on is how I think the highest principles of high integrity marketing, which is showing up and giving value and being present, can be facilitated on those platforms. And importantly, as per this whole podcast, there are other platforms, there are other ways, including real life, where you can do that to really build those relationships and ideally show up in the ways you want to make the impact you want on your community.
Yeah, great. Well said, my friend. This was a great conversation. I hope you all found value. I hope at least got your juices flowing out there. You're thinking about these things, and we're here to help. If you want to continue the conversation, reach out to us. Mark at businessforunicorns.com, Michael at businessforunicorns.com. There's still some spots left in our Inside the Unicorn workshop. Link will be down below. And thanks, my friend. This was a great conversation. Let's do it again soon.
We shall.
Hey friends, before you go, just one more thing. If you enjoy this podcast, you get value out of it, you enjoy listening, please share this podcast, comment below. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe. Please share it with friends and family. We don't spend any money on marketing or advertising. And so the only way people find out about this podcast is from you. So please do everything you can to share it with friends and fellow colleagues in the fitness industry. We love making it and we want to keep doing it for a long, long time. So I appreciate your support. Go have a kick-ass day. Bye.